Dani Tagore, Haribol, Namaste.
Haribol, Namaste. Thank you. Thank you very much, Isaac, Cleo, and Krishna Dasi.
Haribol, sir.
Haribol, Namaste. I would like to welcome everyone to our Bhagavad Gita class. Before anything else, let us all pay our obeisances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhusale, Shrimate Tiraswarupananda Paramahamsa. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaura. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Haribol. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all, wherever you are in the world. We are now going to continue our reading and discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. Janner, would you know where we stopped last time? There you go. That is text 25. Okay. Mr. Pravin, would you like to read that?
Yes, Haribol.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very, very clear.
Okay. This is text 25, chapter 4. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Purport. As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factual sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions, like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bhava Ishwarvadi, or believers in many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the forms of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus end their individual existences by merging into existence of the Supreme. Such impersonalists spend their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruitive workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifice his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalists, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of the Brahman. The Krishna conscious person, like Arjun, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all his material possessions, as well as his own self, everything, his own self, everything, is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus, he is the first class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. Haribol.
Haribol, thank you very much, Mr. Pravin. It's very, very clear here that there are differences in ways of doing sacrifices. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, as we read it, um, there are actually two types, two types only. One type is sacrifice for material gain or material possessions, no, or material happiness, and those are the people who are fond of worshiping the demigods. They worship the demigods for material gain, for wealth, for a good husband, like that, a good wife. And they worship the demigods for intelligence. They worship the demigods for so many things, material. So this is actually a type of sacrifice, but it only benefits them. It benefits their material considerations. Okay. Now, the impersonalists also try to veer away from material possessions, but they end up, losing their awareness that they are individuals because they totally merge themselves into the fire, of the Brahman effulgence. And once a person is merged into the Brahman effulgence, what happens is that he temporarily forgets his identity as an individual soul. Yeah. So in some other parts of the Bhagavad Gita, it is described that when a person merges himself into the Brahman effulgence, he is not totally free. He is partially liberated, but not total liberation. Why? Because they still have this self-interest of, achieving liberation from material considerations or material gains, and they just want to like merge themselves onto the supreme Brahman effulgence. But the question is this: once a person loses his identity, even though temporarily, because no one really in the truest sense of the word, nobody ever loses their identity. They can lose the awareness that they're individual, but they're still individuals. So therefore, in the merged state, what happens is that they still have this desire to love somebody and be loved by somebody, to love and be loved, and be loved by somebody. They still have that because they are individuals. As individual souls, our natural function is to be engaged in the loving service of somebody, and that somebody is the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So in the merged state, they do not have that. It is not taken care of. It's not taken care of. So therefore, because they cannot have a loving affinity with the Supreme Lord, who is a person, by the way, because as far as they're concerned, the Supreme Absolute Truth is not a person. So, because in that state, they cannot foster their love to the Supreme Lord. They get attracted to the forms of the material world. So what happens is that they go to the Brahman effulgence, okay, Brahma Jyoti, and then they stay there for so many years, enjoying the pleasure of being merged, because it is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the happiness derived from merging into the Brahman effulgence is actually very, very superior happiness. You're able to actually feel superior happiness there. Okay? But there comes a time that you need to share that love with somebody. Okay? That the need to love and be loved is at the forefront, and you need to uh, experience that. Now, how can you experience that when the Supreme Lord is not a person? That they totally deny the personality of God, Krishna, because after all, with the teachings of Mayavadi impersonalists, they're saying that they're actually equivalent to Krishna themselves. So that is actually a very dangerous path. So they end up coming back to the material world and are getting attached again to the material forms because of that. Okay, so these are the two types of sacrificer that is found, or that is categorized as the material, in the material category. But there's another type of sacrificer, and that is to sacrifice everything for the service of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. Yeah. They don't lose their identity. They are always a person, and they don't want to merge into the Supreme Brahman, because they know that the Supreme Brahman is actually the impersonal feature of Bhagavan, the impersonal feature of Krishna. And they totally accept such realization. But that is not the end. That is not the end of realization, of God realization. The end of God realization is being able to realize the supreme absolute truth, Bhagavan, who is the source of Brahman. Without the supreme source, there is no question of Brahman. Brahman is there, the effulgence, because Brahman is simply the dazzling effulgence coming from the body of Krishna. Yeah. So without Krishna, there is no Brahman. And they also realize that Krishna is in his expansion. Okay. Because the potency of Krishna is multifarious. Aside from the Brahman effulgence, okay, he also is present in everyone's heart, all the living beings. In other words, each and every being and each and every atomic particle, Paramatma or the Supreme Lord manifests. So you are, in other words, the soul is never alone. Is never alone. There is no point in time that he is alone, but he has the tendency to forget. And that is the sad nature of a person who is in the material concept of life, because he totally forgets his relationship with a loving relationship with Krishna. And in the merged state, he forgets that he is an individual and that he has a loving relationship with Krishna. So he concludes that the goal of spiritual life is to merge, to become God, because they, when they look at the dazzling effulgence or the Brahma joyity, yeah, they look at it as the absolute truth. But in reality, in all of the Puranyas, as well as the Upanishads, as well as the Vedas, the four Vedas, there is always a mention that Krishna, in his expansion as Paramatma, manifests in each and every living being. So each and every living being, not only humans, but all living beings, including plants, birds, fish, animals, etc. Krishna is within each and every living being. So the living being is always with Krishna. The only difference is that these two sacrificers, they totally forget about the personal existence of Krishna. While the devotees of Krishna, they have cognizance. They realize that Krishna is the source of both the Brahman and the Paramatma. And that he engages in a loving relationship with Krishna, because that is our natural condition. The natural condition of the living being is to be engaged in the loving service of Krishna. He needs to love somebody and be loved by somebody, and that is with Krishna in the spiritual world. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Let's move on to our next reader. Mandy, can you read? Mandy, are you there?
Yes, sir. Haribol, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
Translation. Some of them sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of the controlled mind, and others sacrifice the objects of the senses, such as sound, in the fire of sacrifice. Purport. The four divisions of human life, namely the brahmachari, the grahastha, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, are all meant to help men become the perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis, or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. They are referred to in this verse as sacrificing the hearing process and the senses in the fire of the controlled mind. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore the pure brahmachari engages fully in hara namanakirtanam. Sorry, I should know this, sir. Sorry. Hara namanakirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendencies of human society, but a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratifications. Marriage on principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society, because that is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna, because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Haribol, namaste. Thank you, sir.
Namaste, Mandy. So there are actually what is known as the four social orders and four spiritual orders. Okay, the four spiritual orders, namely the brahmacharis, the girhastas, the vanaprasthas, as well as the sannyasis. Okay, these are meant for human civilization. In other words, Krishna put it in this category of spiritual division so that men who have fallen from the grace of the divine and came down to the material platform, okay, will have the opportunity to return back home, back to Krishna. Yeah. So, as you can see, if a person is a brahmachari, that is a student life, okay, and he is supposed to act accordingly as a brahmachari. A brahmachari is somebody who is single, okay, and doesn't engage in any type of sensual gratification or sensual enjoyment. Okay, so he remains as a brahmachari, and that training actually will help him out when he becomes a householder, when he becomes a vanaprastha, as a sannyasi. That fundamental training will give him the strength to carry on in his spiritual life. So it is actually very, very essential that in the beginning of life, a person must experience a brahmachari training. Now, somebody may ask, sir, what about, if I already chanted, I was already married, or, I already had children, and that's the time I chanted, what happens to me? It's okay. In whatever station of life you're in, at the moment, just follow the instructions of the Gurudev. Follow the instructions of Gurudev and follow the instructions of the Shastras. Like, it doesn't mean just because you're a householder or Gihastra that you have all the license for sense enjoyment, unrestricted sex enjoyment, etc. No. even if you're already a gihastra, okay, even if you're already a householder, married life, okay, you can still practice restraint from all this material sensual gratification, including sexual gratification. If you're married, you can engage in sexual activity for the purpose of for the purpose of rearing God conscious children. That that is the only reason why a person becomes a gihastra or a householder, to be able to rear up his family life and become Krishna conscious as they grow up, as they practice their family life like this, you know. And then at a certain age, usually around 50, 55, like that, or in some cases 60, yeah, you become a vanaprastha, or a retired order of life. In other words, for so many years you have been practicing, you have been trying to make a living by engaging in business, or becoming an employee for a company like that. Yeah, trying to come up with money to provide for your family like that. So for so many years you have been practicing this. There'll come a time that you have to retire. Retirement or vanaprastha is meant for the elevation of the consciousness of a person. In other words, it is like a practice to veer away from any sensual enjoyment. And then, of course, the sannyasi, that is the renounced order of life. A renounced order of life, that is where a person totally disregards material comforts or material sensual gratification. Yeah. But of course, because we have a bona fide spiritual master in the person of Srila Prabhupada, he gives instructions to his disciples and followers throughout the world, and tell them that, being a sannyasi is actually very difficult in this day and age. This day and age, this is the age of chaos and confusion, yeah, age of Kali Yuga, and very, very difficult. From what I know, Srila Prabhupada has not initiated any of his disciples for being a sannyas. He initiates disciples for Harinam initiation. Harinam initiation is the initiation that we get when we get a spiritual name from the spiritual master, and receive instructions from the spiritual master for the development of his spiritual journey. And then the second initiation is called the Gayatri initiation, which myself and many of my God brothers and God sisters have been a Brahman initiation or Gayatri initiation. And the third initiation is the sannyas initiation, which Srila Prabhupada at the moment doesn't want to touch because very, very difficult, you know. We have seen it in some organization of the Vaishnava organization that when a person becomes sannyas, he actually falls down because very, very difficult. Very difficult and very strict. Actually, that is very strict. No, very strict order of life that you have to follow. In other words, here in the Bhagavad Gita, these are prescribed. These are prescribed lifestyles. No, the goal of each category is to engage in spiritual life more and more each day, to make you closer to God each day. Because right now, remember, we are away from Krishna, we are away from God. We are away from God, and therefore we are controlled and captivated by none other than Maya, or the illusory energy of Krishna. And Maya becomes our guide in life. I mean, almost everybody in the material world is suffering because of their association with Maya. And Maya is a devotee of Krishna. She is a devotee of Krishna. She does what she is instructed upon by Krishna. When a person devotes himself in material sense gratification, that means that he has fallen fully into the hands of Maya. And Maya makes it easy for that person to enjoy sensual gratification, because that is really her duty. Her duty is to make you forget Krishna and to make it so that you remember Maya as your savior. And this is the reason why in the material world, materialists and atheists, they totally forget about God. Yeah, they make sense gratification as their altar. They make sensual pleasure as the end goal. The end goal of life. That I can find happiness in the material concept of life. But unfortunately, no matter how you try to squeeze happiness from sensual gratification or sensual enjoyment or sensual pleasure, you are never happy. You will always end up empty-handed, unfulfilled, discontented, dissatisfied. Why? Why is that? Because that is not our natural condition. To try to enjoy separately from Krishna, is not our natural condition. Trying to imitate Krishna by being the enjoyers of all I survey, is not our natural condition. Our natural condition is to be engaged in the loving service of Krishna. That's our natural condition. And only through that a person can actually feel fulfillment in life. Okay, so let's continue our reading. Sharni, would you like to read?
Haribol, sir. Namaste,
Hi.
everyone. Text 27, translation. Those who are interested in self-realization in terms of mind and sense control offer the functions of all the senses as well as the vital force or breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. Purport. The yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul
Sutra.
Yoga Sutra, thank you,
Yeah.
sir, of Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyagatma and Paragatma. As long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, and it is called Paragatma. The soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjala system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to this yoga system, Pratyag Atma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyag Atma is a withdrawal from activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects, like the ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, hand for touching, and all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of the prana vayu. The apana vayu goes downwards. Vyana vayu acts to shrink and expand. Samana vayu adjusts equilibrium. Udana vayu goes upwards. And when one is enlightened, one engages all this in searching for self-realization. Haribol Namaste po. Thank you.
Namaste, Sharni, Haribol. So it is described here how we have to offer all our activities in Krishna consciousness. The 10 types of air that is within the body, yeah, are there to be used by the living being. So it's either he uses it properly or he misuses it. Okay, because if you misuse it, what happens is that instead of that being the vehicle for self-realization, it becomes the vehicle for sensual gratification, for material sense enjoyment. So two choices lang yan. It's either you use everything for Krishna and use everything for Maya. Patanjali, who is the founder of the Yoga Sutra, he actually instructed his followers to follow this, what is known as the manipulation of these different airs of the body. Okay, the airs in the body are there to be able to be used by the yogi or the person who intends to end his material existence and welcomes the welcoming hands of spiritual undertaking. Without this practice, it is not possible to try to control the senses. So, what is the difference between the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga is the yoga that we practice. Yeah, that is the yoga of love and devotion. Now, with the practice of Bhakti Yoga, when you practice Bhakti Yoga, you totally surrender your life to Krishna in love and devotion. Yeah. That means that when you are engaged in Bhakti Yoga process, automatically all the practices of what Patanjali was referring to becomes manifest. In other words, automatic. Hindi mo na kailangan i-separate pa, i-practice yun. No? Try to breathe and try to engage in pranayam and trying to control the breathing exercise, the breathing process like this. You don't necessarily have to practice that and perfect it. No, because when a person has surrendered his life to Krishna, automatically he becomes perfect. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga. In other words, if a person is engaged in Bhakti Yoga, Patanjali becomes very pleased because after all, that is what he really wants. His followers and people in general to follow. Try to regulate their senses, try to control their desires, etc., etc. Their lust and desires are controlled. Why is it easier for a person to engage in Bhakti Yoga rather than the mechanical type of yoga? Anyone?
Haribo, namaste, sir. Please accept my
Namaste.
message.
Yes.
I believe in Bhakti Yoga, you replace your own senses with Krishna's senses, and you receive the bliss in that. Whereas in other types of yoga, the bliss is missing. You don't. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to speak a little louder, though.
Sure. I believe that in Bhakti Yoga, we're replacing the senses, our own senses, to satisfy our own senses with Krishna's senses. So in that sense, we get some satisfaction back. Whereas in other types of yoga, when you artificially want to abstain from sense enjoyment, you don't get any satisfaction back and you don't have any relationship that satisfies the heart.
Yeah, that is true. That is actually true because with Bhakti Yoga, what happens is that you are actually experiencing a superior taste of happiness. There is happiness, right? But there is a superior type of happiness that that covers up all other so-called happiness in the world. Material happiness or even transcendental happiness, like merging into the Brahman effulgence. It covers it. It becomes the blanket, of happiness. Whereas doing a mechanical type of yoga system, okay, by engaging in uh, uh, controlling the airs in the body, controlling the desires and lusts, etc. Yeah, there is happiness there, but certainly it cannot compare with the happiness derived in serving Krishna, because you are actually there in your natural condition of a loving servant of Krishna. So when a person engages in bhakti yoga, you don't necessarily have to practice all these different yoga systems like the Kundalini yoga or Ashtanga yoga system, etc. You don't necessarily have to follow that. I heard a lecture of Srila Prabhupada talking extensively just this topic, you know. And what is most important really is to be engaged in the loving service of Krishna, because that is our condition, that is our environment. Our environment is devotional activity for Krishna, devotional service to Krishna. That is our environment. Other types of environment is not natural. A person may gain some pleasure from it, but usually that pleasure doesn't last long. For example, material gains or material sensual gratification, it stays for a while, but it disappears after a while because it is temporary. It is not everlasting. That type of enjoyment, that type of joy and happiness cannot be compared with the infinite happiness that a devotee experiences. The experience of the infinite happiness of the devotee, stays there forever. Okay, so thank you very much, Kathy, for your thoughts about this. I
Thank
agree
you,
with
sir.
you totally.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Last reader. Would you like to read, Kathy?
Yes, sir. I'm not the best reader, but I try. Thank you.
No, it's okay.
Haribo. There are others who, enlightened by sacrificing their material possessions in severe austerities, take strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism, and others study the Vedas for the advancement of transcendental knowledge. Purport: these sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharmasala, Anakshetra, Atithi Sala, Anathalaya, Vidyapitha, etc. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravayamaya Yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, The candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, and does not leave home. Such sacrifice of comforts of life is called Tapamaya Yajna. Tapomaya Yajna. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas, like Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yajna, sacrifice for a certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literatures, specifically the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras, or Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Svadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, Krishna consciousness is, however, different from these because it is the direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above-mentioned types of sacrifices, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotee. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental.
Thank you very much, Kati.
My pleasure, Haribo.
It is so here. It is very, very clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita the difference between all these different types of yoga systems. Yeah, these different types of yoga systems are like ladders. They're ladders like that towards a certain goal. The goal being merged into the Brahman effulgence. Yeah. So they go to these different goals, different ladders. Yeah, you have Raja Yoga, you have the Ashtanga Yoga, you have the Kundalini Yoga, you have the Jnana Yoga, you have the Jnana Yoga, etc., etc. You know, so each with their own goals in life, but generally the goal of these different yoga ladders or yoga system is can be attributed to one factor only, and that is material sensual enjoyment. Material enjoyment can be classified also by many levels of like a ladder, you know. You can have material pleasures by engaging directly into the, your senses, directly to the sense objects. The eyes must can be enjoyed, can experience enjoyment by seeing the objects of sight, and so with the other senses, the ears for music, the ears for gentle whispering and gentle talking, etc. Yeah, the tongue for eating delicious foods like this, the sense of touch also for touching the objects of the senses. So these are all sensual gratification directly by our senses. Okay, but there is also another type of material sense gratification, and that is like, doing charitable work. You open up hospital, you open up an orphanage, you open up a feeding program like that for the poor. Yeah, hospital for everyone, free of charge, like that. That is also a type of sacrifice meant for higher sensual gratification, because what it gives you really what it gives you really is what it gives you is just the highest would be the uh, the heavenly planets. In other words, you go to the planets of the demigods and enjoy immense type of sensual pleasure there. And that is the reason why many people in the world, they are very attached to worshiping the demigods, because they want to get a higher type of uh, sensual enjoyment. So other types are they study the Vedas because they want to like merge into the Brahman effulgence like this. Yeah, as we have discussed earlier, this is not really a complete liberation. That is not a complete liberation. That is partial liberation. Why? Because it is still considered to be uh, material. And being material, it is not eternal. It is temporary. All these sensual pleasures that you get from all of these different types of sacrifices, they are temporary. So what is the use? You are not temporary. You are spiritual. I mean, we are all spiritual beings, and really our natural food must be spiritual nutrition. We need spiritual food to be able to experience real happiness. And that is only possible through what is known as the Bhakti Yoga system, where a person totally becomes selfless. He is not anymore into his own self-interest, but he is into the interests of Krishna. The center is always Krishna. He totally removes himself from the centeredness of everything, because he understands that Krishna is the center of everything, and that everyone is meant to serve that center, that enjoyer, and that is Krishna. Okay, so hanggang dito lang naman po tayo. If you have any questions, you may ask. You have any questions? No questions? May we ask Kati, would you like to do the kirtan? Exit
Yes, sir.
kirtan?
I can do that if you like. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I request.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Pura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Pura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate Namo Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Pura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate Namo Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Pura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate Namaste Saraswati Deva Puravani Pracharine Nervesesha Sunyavadi Paskechade Shetarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Puravani Pracharine Nervesesha Sunyavadi Paskechade Shetarine Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade Gaurabhakta Vrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasade Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nityananda Gaur Hari Chaitanya Gaur Hari 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 Hari Bol Gurudev Hari Bol Gurudev Hari Bol Hari Bol Gurudev Hari Bol Gurudev Hari Bol Jaya Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Siddha Swarupananda. Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Siddha Swarupananda. Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Siddha Swarupananda. Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gurudev Hari Bol. 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 Hari Bol.
Haribol, Haribol. Thank you very much, Kati, for that wonderful exit kirtan. I would like to also thank our entry kirtan made by Isaac and his family. Also, would like to thank my co-host here, Janner and his family, Mila and Kalkidas. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Salamat, sir. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Also, all the readers for today. Yeah, thank you so much for everything. And of course, let's see, let me just check this. Yeah, and all of the attendees for today, thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you so much, Mandy.
Thank you, sir. Haribol. Namaste. Thank
Praveen,
you for having me.
Kati, Ma'am Ines, thank you.
Haribol, sir.
Haribol. Florence, thank you very much, Florence. Sharni, thank you so much.
Haribol, thank you din, sir. Namaste, everyone.
Alinette, maraming salamat, Alinette and Bao.
Haribol. Namaste, everyone.
Last but not the least, Claire of Iloilo, maraming salamat. Okay, so if you have time tomorrow at 9 a.m., we are going to have a question and answer session. So if you want to attend, you're most welcome to attend that. Thank you very much. Yeah. Have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Jaya Krishna, Jaya Nitai Gaur, Haribol.
Haribol, thank you so
Haribol.
much.
Haribol. There you go. Here.